We've got a Craftsman 28-inch snowblower here. It's got the 11.5 horse Briggs on it. So that's their Snow Series engine. Really good engines. I do like them. Customer complaint is that when she goes to use it in the snow, it dies out, or when she takes it off choke, it doesn't run very well. Seems to run okay on choke. I just pulled it in here a second ago, had it running. So what it's seeming like here is that we've got a carburetor issue or a fuel related issue. It's not running well with the choke all the way off. With the choke about half, it runs pretty well. What you always want to do before you start running anything, testing anything, check the oil, make sure that there's no gas or anything mixed in with it. I did do that before I went ahead and brought this in. Go ahead and check your fuel, make sure that it's not horrible down on the bottom too. This stuff looks pretty clear, but it does look like there may be a little moisture underneath, so that may be the issue we're having going on. Go ahead and take the two out of the top and get down to the carburetor here. Normally these are like a 3/8 that sit in the top. It looks like somebody's been in here before though, so not a big deal. They thread right down in, but definitely not the originals that came with it. So top piece just pops right up off of there. Just get anything under it and it comes straight up and off. You want to be careful not to go out to the side. This is kind of a flimsy choke piece there. So then the top will come all the way up. Keep it away from the hot muffler. If your muffler's real hot, mine's been running for a while, so it's kind of hot. I ran it in here. Looks like my on-off wire just broke off there, so not a huge deal. We'll get that fixed, but you want to make sure that that gets put back on there. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to turn the unit off once you start it. So get the front, get a couple 5/16 bolts out the front here. What we're going to do is we're going to pull the carb and see exactly what's causing this thing to run badly. If it's just poor fuel, or if it's a gummed up carb, or what we got going on. Many times it's kind of a combination of both. Once you get poor fuel, you get a lot of gum going on. So again, just two 5/16 bolts holding that on. And then it's two separate pieces, so you want to pay attention to which way they come off. So there's a gasket in between there, which really doesn't do a whole lot because you're just pulling back to air anyway. But we've got that off. Now we can go ahead and get down to our fuel line and drain the fuel. We're just going to pull that off. A lot of times I'll grab it and just twist it so it frees up first before you try to take it off, because if you try to take it off before that, what you'll do is you'll ruin this elbow there. A lot of times it will come right off with it or be ruined with it. So let's see here. Straight up. Go ahead and drain this down into our bucket. Get all that fuel off. We always start with fresh, so figure out what exactly we have in here. Oop. Wrong size. I thought I had it out. Okay, here it is. Use a T30 in there. Get those out, and you can use like a 3/8 to get the bolt out also, but it is super hard to get way back in there. So that's why they put the teeth on there, to make it a little bit easier for us, I think. All right. This carburetor is looking in pretty bad shape. I'm not sure how bad a shape it is, but from the outside, it's looking like it's been on there for quite a while. So I'm gonna get it pulled apart and figure out exactly what we need to do. Hopefully it just takes a nice cleaning and we'll be back in action. So we're going to just take the bottom nut off the bowl and try to keep it as upright as possible. can see exactly what's in here. It's looking pretty bad coming out there on that fresh. Oh yeah, so it's, you can clearly see down in the bottom that there's a big pool of water down in there. So I mean, just a lot of water. So that's what's probably causing our poor running. But if you look, there's just all kinds of debris everywhere too. Yeah. So if you're looking here and you're testing these carburetors, if you're looking at it and it's not going all the way up, your float isn't level when it's going all the way up, it means your needle and seat is kind of puckered up. So this here only opens from about there to there to let fuel in. So eventually, if you've got one like this and your needle and seat is puckered up, eventually the thing will actually die just of starvation because it's not getting enough fuel. So that's looking pretty good. But the needle and seat down in there is puckered up pretty good. So that's going to keep your fuel coming in from as quick as you'd like it to. And a lot of times when that happens, you can just go ahead and replace the needle and the seat in it. No big deal whatsoever. You can do that all you want. These here, in my opinion, easier just to put a new carburetor on it. So they sell the good old aftermarket ones, the 798917. So this is the same as the other one. The only thing is you need to use your choke from your prior version. So normally we'd go ahead and clean these if they're not too bad, but this thing, you can just tell it's in really bad shape. It's been on there a very long time. Last year he had a few issues with it, and I think he's just running really bad fuel in it. As you can see, there was a lot of water in there, but if you put that, just go ahead and put that choke rod down in there off your other one. Now you've got a brand new carburetor, okay, that's good to go for this. I'm going to go ahead and open it up. I always open up an aftermarket carburetor. I don't care what the situation is, but here we actually open all OEM carburetors also, just to make sure there's nothing in them. A lot of them, even the OEMs, come without any sort whatsoever of quality control. Look at that. We got metal flecks all down in there. Almost everything anymore is going without quality control checks. So I don't care what brand, make, or model, whether it's OEM or not, checking the carburetor is something that takes just a couple seconds, and it's something that's going to prevent you from having issues. So we clean all that out. We go ahead and blow everything out just from those little metal shavings in there, you know. You'd think something like that wouldn't happen, but it does more often than you think. And I find them in Honda, I find them in Kohler, I find them in everybody. I mean, it doesn't matter, name brand or not. It's just not the way that it used to be. So make sure that jet down in there doesn't have anything in it whatsoever. Otherwise, you're going to run into an issue where it's not going to run right off the bat. So, and do notice, as we're putting this on there, if you look at the other one, the inlet comes in on the other side. Huge deal, right? Well, no, it's not. It's not a huge deal whatsoever. I'll show you how to get that taken care of up top here. So again, if your carburetor's worth cleaning, you can go ahead and do that. You can go ahead and, there's a little thing that just grabs the seat out of here, and you'll pull that out. You'll seat a new one down in there, replace the needle while you're at it. You replace the bowl gasket and the bottom gasket if you'd like while you're at it. But you know, by the time you get all that stuff bought and get that stuff done, you've got a carburetor that you've spent more money than the aftermarket on, and you're not guaranteed it's going to work. Here with this other carburetor, we've got a nice trusted unit. Yes, it's an aftermarket carb. Yes, it's a little bit cheaper, but a lot better than spending that kind of money on these. And there's really, functionality wise, quality wise, there's not going to be any difference. You know, they're going to function both exactly the same, and they're going to run the same. So keep good fuel in it, and you won't have any problems with this one either. So we're going to throw this thing back on, and I'll show you here with the fuel line coming out on the other side. It does. So if you go to put this on here, you notice it hits. Well, guess what's under here? Nothing. So all you've got to do is make a little bit of adjustment here. And all you want to do is flatten that out enough that you've got enough room to get that fuel line on there. Other than that, that plastic piece is not going to hurt anything whatsoever. So you want to make sure that both of these gaskets are in good shape though, the one in the back and the one in the front of this unit. Otherwise, you will have an air leak and it will run poorly. So the back one is in pretty good shape. What I like to do is if they come off and they're in perfect shape, I like to double them up. So I like to throw another one on there. Instead of trying to clean all that stuff off of there, I like to throw another one on there on the back side. And that's going to seal up any imperfections just to one side. If it's both sides or if there's any tears or anything in it, you're going to want to replace it for sure. This just kind of saves you a little bit of time, and it does not change anything. Does not change anything on that back side. So let's see what we got. So see how that's just, you got just enough room there now to modify this fuel line coming in, and you're going to have everything lined up perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this throttle back in here. The governor linkage back in the throttle plate. Oop. I always like to get the spring first. If you can get that spring in there, seems like it's a lot easier to go ahead and get the linkage afterwards. And the linkage always seems to kind of come through afterwards really quickly. So you can take that back gasket off if you want, and obviously if it's in bad shape at all, go ahead and replace it. If it's not though, kind of silly to. Just really wasting time and effort at that point. So you want to make sure that these start before you, if you're using an impact, make sure they start before you're impacting. Otherwise they do tend to strip out extremely easily. So do not over tighten them on any of your stuff, and make sure that this fuel tank is all the way blown out. So you don't want any of that water staying in there. You want all that water out of that tank to actually come out of that tank. By the time you're done, it should be completely dry in there. There shouldn't be any moisture left in it, no fuel, no gas, no nothing. It should be 100% dry down in the bottom of the unit. If your fuel line or anything is bad at this point, you're going to want to replace that also. If you see any tearing or ripping or any kind of cracks along this edge, there may be just a tiny bit there, but if they were any worse than that, I'd definitely be replacing this. So make sure you leave yourself enough room for a little bit of curve there. You don't want it coming too harsh. If you do, it'll pinch off. You'll have too hard of an angle, and then you won't get enough fuel delivery to there. So, all right, perfect. Go ahead and throw the front ones back on. And you've got your bottom piece here. And then you want to make sure that you get your primer also hooked up, the primer bulb here. I'm going to go ahead and fire this up and show you guys that this runs and all that good stuff, but the kill switch is still not installed at this point, so we'll have to choke it out or pull the plug or something like that until we get that fixed. So I'm not going to fix that right this second. I'm just going to show you here the difference in running between what it was just doing and what it will do now. Now that we've got it all cleaned out of that bad fuel, got a new carburetor on it, something that's going to give us a good running unit. So, fuel cap back on here. Go ahead and fire this thing up. Well, it definitely doesn't want to stop running, that's for sure, but I was just trying to prime it to get it to... I forgot it's got that other shut-off switch over here, so that was kind of silly, but didn't even realize that in the beginning. We're going to get this other one fixed up before we send it back to the customer, obviously, but the running issue there was essentially just caused by bad fuel and a carburetor that was less than ideal. So, you know, once you get into 6, 8, 10 years on these carburetors, what's the point in, you know, trying to repair them at that point? Go ahead and replace it, get you a nice new, start fresh, have a good running machine. So thanks for watching, like and subscribe.